Hello, everyone. We now have a kind of a different session. We will have a panel with three of our speakers. And the topic of this panel is going to be how AI and automation are changing software engineering. So I'll have each one of them first introduce themselves, and then we'll go around a few rounds of more in depth about this topic. And then there's probably going to be some time at the end for questions and answers. So, Davide, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, good evening, and welcome to SFSCon. I am Davide Montesin. I'm a long-term software developer, and in the last time I founded a startup for automated testing.
Thank you. My name is Schulz, and I'm the head of strategy at Vates and an occasional AI practitioner.
Hi, I'm Marina Latini. I'm a release engineer, and apart from that, I'm also a free software activist, and thanks a lot for joining.
I actually haven't introduced myself yet. I did it this morning, but probably not every one of you was here. My name is Vittorio Manti. I'm a journalist. I've been writing about technology for a good 30 years. And right now I'm managing Edge 9, which is the B2B section of Hardware Upgrade. So starting from today's first keynote and introduction to the old event, one of the keywords has been transformation. And we can all agree that AI is transforming several layers of the technology stack. And how do you see this transformation happening in terms of engineering software and how software is developed and coding? I'm very curious to hear each one of you speak. Marina, if you want to start, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. I'm a release engineer, and of course, AI is having a big impact in my daily work. We can say that maybe now we are calling everything AI, but we had some kind of transformation happening also in the past when we started to do automation. And AI is some kind of evolution in this direction, because it's a new technology, a new tool, a new set of tools, I should say, that somehow is improving what we are doing when actually we pay attention on the results of this work done by AI for us. But in general, we should start to see this new technology that is everywhere as something that is enriching our work. So not like the monster that is going to take over all the roles, all the possible career in the IT sector. So I would say it's something positive, but should be handled with care, maybe.
Charles?
I would actually agree with Marina at Vates. We basically do infrastructure management, digital infrastructure management, virtualization, containers, and we officially don't do AI, of course, but the use of AI arrived very naturally among our developers force, and it's pretty interesting, not just how easily it was adopted, how no one gave any kind of like, okay, this is what you're gonna do now, we're gonna be using that product. No, not at all. It arrived easily, and no one ever asked about the acceptance of that. It's just absolutely something that happened. I don't actually believe that this will be the end of us all, of the IT industry, but it will have deep consequences. And I can see that right now we use AI internally to tackle what some would call, with some contempt, boilerplate code. Of course, it's a little bit more than boilerplate code. And of course, this will become more and more complex. But I don't think that anyone's going to replace, engineers. It's just things are just going to be a bit different, let's say. And of course, there's AI for the rest of us, people like me, who don't develop or not too much. And here you have, yeah, everything that's going to help you do a document, et cetera, et cetera. But, and finishing on this, I think we shouldn't be mistaken about the nature of the tools that we're relying on when it comes to AI in our professional life. This is not real intelligence. Let's not get mistaken about this. Cthulhu is not coming to get our jobs. Like, that's not what's happening. Thank you.
So thank you. Yes, I see a quite big transformation with AI. So I am following software development for more than 20 years. And I see in the last year is moving quite fast. So artificial intelligence has started many years before, but now it's come to day-by-day work. And if I remember, so for 5 years, you still write code searching Stack Overflow and so on. And now you have tools that integrate this technology and help you to write the code. I think it is going quite fast and maybe actually is not used correctly or in the best way. I see somebody trust maybe too much this technology and then lose the control of the software, or somebody are more skeptical and like to work without. And so I think it will need more years that the technology will use maybe in a more correct way, but even in meantime can even come even new feature and new possibilities.
Perfect, thank you. I cannot talk about AI from a software engineer perspective because I'm not one, but I can tell you that as a journalist, it has become a tool that we use in our everyday work. It has made it very easy to do certain repetitive tasks. For example, the example I always make, I do interviews in English, and when I do interviews in English, video interviews, I then have to create subtitles. And that's a repetitive task that it would take, let's say, 2 hours for a 10-minute interview, if either I did it or somebody else in the editorial staff did it. Now, it takes 20 minutes because it takes a few minutes just to do the automatic transcription, do the automatic translation, and then it takes time to check it. And I think that's one key element, because anyone can do this process, but only somebody that has the competence in that specific field can then check if the transcription was actually correct or not. But at the same time, there's no value added in that process because you need to be as close as possible to the original words that the speaker used. So it's I think, a good example of a good way to implement AI, where still you need the competence to check it. So my next question for you is about the people that are actually using technology in the software development environment. How are their roles changing? And it was probably mentioned in your presentation, your speech, especially the junior developers are finding maybe a harder time in order to express and learn about coding, and are probably the first that are being, if not replaced, at least heavily moved towards AI. So to sum it up, my question is, how are the roles changing, and how much competence is still key now that we have AI tools at our disposals?
Okay. Um, yes, as I say in my talk before, also I would like to differentiate between junior developer and senior developer. I think these two categories have different risk and opportunity. Yes, junior developer, my fear is that they lose the problem solving skills, because if they use IE as a tool that not simply speed up some typing typing the code, but they don't fully understand what the code do, and sometimes simply copy it. I think this is not very good way to use AI. On the other side, can be a useful tool if is used for learning. So if you use this tool to maybe ask why I don't find this problem, how can I detect if the bug is service in front end, back end, something like this. In this way can be an opportunity also more than before. So I think it depends on how is used. And senior developer, I think, can also maybe solve productivity problem yourself, but the risk is even to lose exchange of human opinion also with other person and so on.
I would say so. I will maybe just focus on the issue of junior developers, so the barriers of entry. We are transitioning effectively. I mean, of course, there can be exceptions to what I'm going to say, but schematically, we're transitioning from a period where, at least in some corners of our industry, engineers were much sought after, and essentially, you were just going out of the engineering school, and you were pretty much set to have a good career. Don't get me wrong. To a large extent, I think this is still true, but effectively, we now have more and more barriers of entry. Without saying that it's about Schumpeterian economics, I will just say that there's an element of creative destruction, but I would also say that what this means in practice is that it's about, well, junior developers are going to have to be more creative. I'm not talking about the CVs, because the resumes are something else. No, more creative in their capacity to achieve more. I think that today, someone who's going to say, well, I'm out of the technical school or something and I can do JavaScript, it's going to become more and more of a problem, to be completely honest. So I don't think it's a matter of junior developers. It's a matter of what can you do and what have you been taught as a junior developer. Conversely, you can have people who never did much or never had much training with software development. Like they did this in their free time, or they did this as a track that they really veered off during their professional career. These people, if they're creative enough, can put up some projects inside an organization and arrive to quite interesting results. And I'm not talking about vibe coding here. I'm talking about actually using AI to deliver some sort of code. So that's also the upside of it. So again, I think it's a matter of barriers of entry, and they're higher, but they're not. It's not necessarily that of a, let's say, bad problem to have. And to end on this, I think we need to really differentiate between what amounts to the fantasy of some, let's say, CEOs who have been firing engineers after engineers, thinking that AI were going to essentially solve their problems. It didn't. And the actual issue at hand that we're discussing now. So there's a big difference between, let's say, announcements done in the press of this or that large company firing technical team and the actual matter at hand. Because in the first case, in the former case, you have some sort of delirium, and the second case, you actually have maybe an opportunity to grasp.
Well, when it comes to junior developers or wannabe developers, I think AI can also be seen as an opportunity. The main point that I think those junior developers shouldn't forget is to remain curious. Because with the curiosity to try to learn something new, AI then can be the tool helping them to discover the new technology and to maybe change completely their career path because they learn the new technology and they can become the expert in that specific field. I don't think that the AI per se is going just to disrupt the wannabe developers or the juniors in general. I think this could be an opportunity, and at the same time, also for a senior developer, or in general for the maintainers of the projects. When I'm talking about maintainers, I'm not only referring to maintainers in big companies. I'm talking about maybe the small open source project that is used everywhere, but where behind there's maybe just one person. In that case, the technology like AI can be the helper, going to speed up to solve some issues that would take longer if done just by the single person that is working maybe in the spare time on that open source project. Of course, as also the others were saying, we can't forget that artificial intelligence requires to have intelligence on it. So we need to bring back the focus and remember that we can't simply accept every random possible output from the coding that we get as a proposed solution. So we need to try to review the code that we are getting, and I'm talking about code just because I'm focused on that on the daily basis, but can be on every kind of prompt output that you can get from those artificial intelligence. Even more, the important part is to try to check different results from different tools. Not just being stuck on one tool, one technology that could have a bias and give results that are completely problematic, I don't know, for disabilities, because maybe they don't take into account at all accessibility issues and so on. So there's a lot that can be done, but always we should try to keep the focus on the fact that as humans, we are the resource that should really control what this automation, what this artificial thing we are creating is doing for us.
I think we all shared a similar approach to this, and the point of view seems similar. And you raised some very interesting elements around it, and which bring us to the main topic of this year's FSSCon, which is ethics. And so what transpired until now is that artificial intelligence is transformative, that you need specific competences to use it fully, to fully exploit it, because if you're not able to interpret the results that you get from the tools, then they will become practically useless if you cannot, let's say, validate them. But then we go a step forward. You mentioned bias. Bias is one actual problem related to the specific LLMs. We heard during some of these, was actually the first speaker today, that if you cannot access the data that were used to train a model, it's very difficult to understand if how the results are actually generated. And this poses a lot of ethical elements which have to be taken into consideration, because we also think, I think we also agree that there's no turning back, that this technology is here to stay, that even if there's a lot of talk about an AI bubble that might burst, we will have to deal with artificial intelligence now, in the future, and for its evolution, which is very, very quick. So in this last term of questions, I would like to know, what's your take on the ethical perspective on artificial intelligence, and if you think it can actually be managed, and if there are enough tools around, not only technical tools, but also law tools and bureaucratic tools to manage the ethical aspects related to artificial intelligence.
Well, as you said, I think that one of the key points is also to ensure that there is someone helping, someone somehow controlling. And on this, I'm referring more to the laws that should support the people doing the technology. Because, I mean, we can pretend that everyone is an expert in development, but at the same time is a super expert a lawyer and so on. And from this point of view, I think we have the technology that is running really quick, really fast. I'm not completely convinced that the regulations supporting the use of this technology is running at the same speed. I think the gap is getting filled, but there is a gap. That's the problem. And with this gap, there's always the risk to have someone abusing the technology. And it's getting normal to think that we can put AI everywhere. That per se is not bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. But the point is that sometimes we are really not thinking where AI is running, which kind of data AI is just using, so on what we are training this new technology that is running. And maybe we should be a little bit more careful when we are using those new technology. I mean, the hype of it's new, I want to try it, it's of course something important, the stay curious I was mentioning before, but we should always try to balance a bit what we are doing with these new technologies and on what we are using the new technologies. If we lose the ethical part of it, the risk is to make dehumanized what is the result of the technology. And I really believe that every good technology, everything that is innovation, is happening and can go on only when, as a human, we keep the technology human. So that's something, I mean, we are getting there, we are catching up, but I still see the gap and the fear that something could be misused.
I will actually take the risk of taking a philosophical approach here. Because yes, I can tell you, yeah, we can do a lot of things and certain important things are done. I'm particularly thinking of the good works done by the USI, by the open source definition, and also about that's rare in my mouth, the great work actually done on the AI Act of the European Union. I think there are some crucial things happening there when it comes to sound fundamentals about how we view AI. Now, the real key for me is if we accept that ethics can only exist ethics can only exist if there is a meaning to it. Meaning, if you take a hammer, and there's no ethics in the hammer. There is, however, ethics in the fact and in the way you're going to be using the hammer. Okay. Now let's go back to AI. Can AI instances, LLMs, whatever, do they have meaning? Do they produce by themselves meaning. Not can they puppet meanings. Can they produce meaning? Do they have meaning? If they do, and I think to some extent they do, then we must have a real discussion about AI and ethics. Because what's extrinsic, we can, there's an important work done on regulation, on soft regulation, on licensing, on IP. That is one thing. We know very well how to kind of attack that, so to speak, even if it's new, but we know pretty much what to do. No, the real key thing for me is if there is meaning in AI, then there must be ethics in AI. If there's not, then we're back to the hammer situation.
Okay. Yes, I see more impacts of the AI. So one can be on work. So I remember some months ago, many ask, I will lose the job, for example, or not. So should be constrained by law or not. And in this case, I think developers should open to evolve to a new role to still be a value. And I agree with Marina and Schulz that curiosity should always drive the person for this. Another things, for example, about ethics, some things I haven't seen in the last time I don't really like is that many use AI, take the output and sell this output as is without checking and so on. It is, I think, is not good for for giving the AI the right is not the right tool for this. And another things we have already do is even searching for open source alternative, no? Because actually we are using mostly the big company AI, and so sometimes I think why not create something like the open source for software, even for AI. I have tried something because still exist some models, so we are not that are open, but at the moment cannot be so good as the one for the tech companies, so the big tech companies. So for me, for example, would be good if it can be even there are even a community that can try to create an open artificial intelligence that can be even more maybe democratic or not, because we don't control how the big company train the artificial intelligence.
Well, I think we had a very interesting points of view also on ethics. I think the meaning is an essential differentiator, and also the other views that were expressed. In order to leave some time for questions, before we open the questions, if we can go a quick tour and imagine how, I know it's hard because we don't know how the technology is going to evolve, but if somebody that is maybe studying now at university or even in high school and comes to you with your experience and asks you, how do you see a developer in 5 or 10 years? How do you see this role evolving? And but very quickly, and then we'll open up to questions.
Okay. Yes, I think I have seen AI, also it's not started yet, so, and typically he has wave, no? So we are maybe in a hot moment, and maybe will be a standard, and then I think if 10 years it will have another spike. And yes, I see developer as a person that write less code, but is more responsible for quality, result, security, and something like this.
I see more enshittification. That's what I see, but I guess that's, you can't avoid that.
Well, upstairs we have the Commodore 64, and maybe, that is great by the way, maybe it's not gonna be that kind of complete different world in 5 years or 10 years, but I think that yes, AI will be just the new normality, and we will have the new spike, the new hype on the new technology. It's just yeah, it's something that will be just common, like everything that we are currently experiencing. I don't see it like something disappearing. No.
We, as journalists, are arguing what our role is going to be in 5 or 10 years, because there are some shifts in our world that are even harsher, maybe, than in coding. Anyway, at the same time, I think we all came up with an optimistic view of both the present and the future. So we have 3 minutes left. If anyone has questions, we're open for.
Hello. I want to touch on and ask the question of, as we already experienced, AI is turning out to be a great learning tool, or as you stated, we should be using it as like a learning tool, but how can we determine if a model is good for learning? Like, who could regulate that model or the output of the model to be classified as learning? Because learning as a process, you know, I mean, instinctively, or you are told that the source that the information is coming from is credible. You know that it's right. That's why you're learning from it. But if you're asking AI to teach you simple topic like, give me the basics of Python, or give me basics of Japanese, or something like that, it could give you solid information. But if you're thinking a little bit ahead, is this credible? Where does it take this information from, and how do we tackle problems like that? I mean,
Well, as I was mentioning before, it's a learning tool. Yes, it's not only a learning tool, but in general, I think that you shouldn't use only one tool. For sure, if you want to start to learn Python, you have the basics from one random tool that you can choose, but then you should continue. You should try to get more out of that technology, and not just say, okay, that's the truth. That's my book, the old manual, the paper one that we were starting to study on. And it's not just that. You need more of those books. You shouldn't just accept the output that you get from one tool as the real one, as the unique one. Would be nice to have different tools like that using different data sets. So maybe what we could try to hope for is to have better data sets that could be trained, that could be used for training the AI, done, for example, by expert programmers. Okay, then in that case, you could be sure I can use that tool, and I can start with that. But still, you shouldn't just look at one source. You should be critical and look into the different options that you can see.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hello. From what you said, basically, all of you see AI as a useful tool to complete the work of the actual software engineers. None of you ever talked about the moment that could simply represented the overtaking from AI in respect of the software engineers in some field. Do you see, is this because you didn't really think of that? You can't simply imagine where it could happen? Or do you feel that there's one field like doing boilerplate coding, for example, where the AI could simply be better than human at that?
Yeah, so you know, AI fundamentally and is understood as being generative AI, and basically relies on established data sets. Can it replace in some fields? Yeah, maybe. I went to a conference a few months ago, and it was about web and data centers, and all I could see was essentially the same formula. You don't need to do anything, and you need to not even know what you're doing. AI is going to do your website for you. So I imagine that in some field, you're going to have some standardized, but really standardized products, low-level products, or high-level, depending on how you see this, that are all the same. Yes, in that field, yes. Is it bad for web agencies? Time to get creative, people. But, you know, ultimately, I don't really think that this is going to be as simple as that. Because let's not forget this, and this will be my last word. Generative AI, and here I'm speaking about generative AI, is fundamentally an engine of pastiche. So, at the end of the day, somebody is going to make a mistake.